Welcome back. Episode 3 of Gritty Iron Gang. What we got today is a week 3 recap. Typically, we start with the Thursday night football game, but we're just going to jump right into it, bro. Los Angeles Chargers were on the road facing your Minnesota Vikings, 28-24. Talk about it.
I mean, just another masterclass of complete letdown. Incompetent all the way around. Just play calling was bad. We still have fumbling issues. We still are turning the ball over. A lot of pre-snap mistakes, a lot of dumb penalties. You start the game with five great runs, which we've been lacking majorly in the run game so far this season. So it was nice to see us be able to create some positive things with the run game. But then, you throw it over the middle to your now the highest paid tight end in the league, and he just allows it to get stripped from his arms. Completely unacceptable, and just a major letdown, in that regard. And then to end the game, the ball was thrown, hits his hands, and he lets it, bobble in the air. They bobbled it, and then finally came down with it in the end zone. But it was just a crap day. It's been a crap season. I mean, I just think from the top down in this organization, we lack good leadership. These players have no accountability, especially coming from the head coach. I think he's more worried about making it a great work environment and being buddy buddy with his players. And we've yet to see Kevin O'Connell truly get in these players' ears and be straight up with them about we don't condone the turnovers. It's just every press conference you hear him talk, it's just kind of like an excuse after an excuse, and it gets old real quick. I just don't think. And then when you talk about Kwesi, he's just look his 2022 draft is going to arguably go down as one of the worst drafts by a GM in NFL history. You got the biggest playmaker out of that group who is contributing is Caleb Evans, and even him, he's really not a top end defensive back in this league, and he won't be. Um, but Lewis Seen, played zero snaps yesterday on defense. Andrew Booth Jr. 0 snaps on defense. Those are your first two picks in that draft, and it's just looking like a complete waste. Um, he talks about being in a competitive rebuild, and what does that even mean? Truly, I mean, the players you've brought in. I mean, yeah, Zadarius Smith was a nice pickup last year, but we traded him after one season. One of your biggest signings this offseason was Dean Lowry, an interior D lineman who gets washed away out of each and every play. Just mind-boggling signing. I mean, I don't understand it. Just how does that make your team better? Then you go out and you sign Marcus Davenport, who everyone's already known he's had injury-prone, issues since dating back to his time with the Saints. He's yet to see the field for us and make an impact. Um, Look, a lot of this team is still the old regime's team. You got Cousins, who came over during that time. They drafted JJ. They drafted Alexander Madison. They drafted KJ. You still got Harrison Smith over there. You still got Daniil Hunter over there, who's not there doing. Um, and then it's just the signings and stuff he's made, trades, whatever. What are they doing? What is it doing to set us up for future success? Absolutely nothing. You got this guy has no football background. He has no background in evaluating football players. He's from Wall Street. It's, the typical Moneyball analytics, data-driven decisions and trying to get value. He talks about wanting to bring in, you know, dreamers. I mean, what the hell does that mean? You bring in the best football players you can possibly bring in to make your team better. we don't. What is this dreaming stuff? You all are getting paid millions of dollars. This is not high school. This is not college. Enough with the bullshit, bro. Like, and I'd like to start seeing, Cam and Quasi and KOC to really start taking ownership of their downfalls and their letdowns at being at the top positions. It's it's just frustrating as hell. I mean, and then talking about the game, it's like that last drive, dude. You get that fourth and 5 or 4th and 6 yard conversion. But yet this goes on the quarterback Kirk Cousins and KOC because Kirk, being a 12-year veteran and a quarterback at that, should know, like, hey, especially if you're having communication issues, I'm gonna, you know, take authority into my own hands. I'm gonna get up, spike the ball, and regroup. Let's regroup. We'll have time for 3 plays to get in the end zone. But instead, and then it's on KOC in that regard too, where before that last play, you should have been in his ear already saying, okay, after this play, if we convert, spike the ball and let's regroup. Or already have another play ready to go. You know, I understand the whole thought process of wanting to run another play right away and catching the defense off guard and seeing if you can get in the end zone, but it was a complete letdown just all the way around, and they got to take that on the chin. But to not have communication problems that late in the game, at that point in the game, just so uncalled for. And just, that is, you cannot do that in this league, and it's baffling. It's really baffling. um but ultimately, like, you watch, going back to last year and now this year, like, the overall play calling from KOC is just atrocious. It's bad. I mean, to not target JJ at all in the first quarter, that's crazy. That is crazy. And I understand when we get in the red zone, teams are, trying to take him away more often than not, double, triple teaming him, whatever they can do down there in the box. But he's the best freaking wide receiver in the NFL. That should be your go-to guy at any given moment. And it just seems like we are, too in our own heads. We're too puckered up. We're too this and that. We look panicked. We look like we don't know what we're doing or what we want to do. We're all over the board. And it's like, I just, and then you get down there on the 1 yard line or whatever, and then you try to run it up the gut with Alexander Madison and you get stuffed. I I have no words. I don't know what I can keep saying and keep talking about to make this any better. It's just, we as Vikings fans, we are all are going through this at the same time every year. It's no different than any other season. We see the same shit on the screen. Everyone has their own opinions on things and how different it looked to them, maybe, but all in all, it's not a one person problem. This is an organization problem. And when that time comes, or when it changed for the better, I don't know when that time's going to be, but it's not now. You think about how to really get this team on the right track for the future. It's some tough decisions and some tough topics are going to have to be discussed in that meeting room, because JJ is all about winning. All he wants to do is win. I think a lot of his contract holdup is him wanting to know what's going on with the quarterback position in the future. Kirk's 35. He really likes Kirk and likes playing with Kirk, but we're kind of at a crossroads where sooner rather than later, he's going to be off the team and probably retired or one last stop in his career. So what do you do in that scenario? I mean, because right now, even though we're 0-3 and we hold the number 2 draft pick right now, that probably won't be the case at the end of the season. This team's too talented to fully go on a tank mode. We're not the Arizona Cardinals who we were talking about all preseason as being, full tank for Caleb. We're not, we don't have a lot of missing pieces, especially on offense, where we're just going to go out there and purposely try to lose games. This is the NFL. These are professional football players. That's not in their blood. They're not going to go out there to purposely lose. And I think that goes for any team, even though when you get to these really bad teams and then you talk about tanking, I mean, I don't think any team, no matter how terrible they are, truly trying to tank. It's just, it ends up being that way because they are a truly bad team. But the Vikings are completely just too talented to even think about tanking. I think, and at this point, I don't even think we have to try to tank. We're just shooting ourselves in our own foot way too many times. Dumb mistakes, dumb penalties, uh, too many turnovers. We're our own worst enemy. That's always the case. We're our own worst enemy. Last year we got super lucky with the 11 and 0 one score games, ball bouncing our way in our favor most of the time. This year it's the complete opposite. And that goes to show you like last year you got completely lucky. But this is the same old team. This is what you kind of were seeing. I mean, we were coming away with wins last year, but this is the same old song and dance this year. It's just the play calling's bad. The situational football is terrible. The game management's terrible. And that's strictly that to me is strictly on the head coach. That he has to look himself in the mirror now and be like, what do I have to do to be a better head ball coach? What do I have to do to get this team going in the right direction? Like I said all offseason, this team is good enough to keep up with the best teams because of our offense. We're going to be in high scoring battles because of that, because our defense is still a bad defense. And, you know, you talk about Brian Flores, you know, this man, he's never going to change. He has an identity when it comes to his defense. Disguise your coverages, disguise your looks, and pressure the hell out of the other team and the quarterback. You pressured him 82% of the time on his dropbacks yesterday, and we only had four pressures, I think. One being Daniil Hunter's strip sack. I mean, I feel for Brian Flores because he wants what he wants to do, but you have to have certain personnel on your team to be able to do what he wants to do. We don't have the defensive backs to hold up on the back end if we're sending pressure with 5, 6 guys and they're not getting home. We're stressing the D-backs out because I mean, look, and then we're not jamming off the line. We're not jamming the receivers off the line. We're playing damn near 10 yards off the receiver still. That opens it up for quick passes underneath right away. And that's what Herbert and them, they came in with that game plan of, okay, we know they're going to blitz. We know Brian Flores' defense, they're going to send pressure constantly at us. This dude was getting the ball out within 2 seconds and just dotting us all over the field. I mean, quick screens on the outside, quick bubble screens, whatever. But look, they came up with the game plan of, hey, we're gonna get the ball to our playmakers early and often. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams both had monster games. I mean, look, quarterback going 40 for 47 is unreal. It's just crazy. I mean, I'm at a loss at this point, bro. It's frustrating, it's heartbreaking, but what can you do? You're just a fan of the team. You got to take it on the chin, and you still keep coming back every weekend like an idiot, cheering for him, thinking something's gonna happen. But at this rate, it's just this is the team we have. We're gonna have to deal with it. And like someone said on a Vikings podcast earlier today, we just got to embrace the suck at this point because realistically, it's not going to change. I looked at the schedule and I'm seeing maybe 7, 8 wins if we're lucky. If we get to that point. Who knows? The league's a funny thing. You can start 0-3 with a 17 game season and still squeak into the playoffs. But this is not a playoff team in my eyes. This is not even a close, good playoff team. It's just, that's the thing that scares me too when it comes to JJ is because he's so about winning, and that's in him so much. Like, who says he just doesn't request a trade at some point, whether it be this year or during the offseason, This is what you get when you put this product out on the field, and this is what your star player is getting. Star players do not last in teams like this. They find a place to go to succeed that's not here. And that's ultimately what I fear that's going to happen, but I don't want it to happen. But I think, if that happens, then we're really talking about, okay, I mean, to me, that's a fireable offense for a GM if you let that happen. But look, I I know it's early in their tenure, but like, what do you do this offseason to recorrect everything and get this back on track to be something people can look forward to and seeing a good product out on the field? I don't know. It is really tough to stomach. It's really tough to just wrap your head around because it's like, I mean, last year we went through a season and we ended up 13 and 4, lost to the Giants in the wild card round. But all through that season, I didn't feel good about any of it. It's just like this team is just it's bad. It's especially the defense, but the interior O line for that to be neglected this past offseason is just so unacceptable. And it just the game is won up in the trenches, both sides of the ball. And then for you to not sign Dalton Reisner on his visit back in early August or whatever it was for training camp, and you wait 2 weeks into the season, and then I mean now it's got to be inevitable that they do bench Ingram this week for Reisner. That's the first move you have to make if you want to rectify anything, which I don't think that rectifies anything, but it just fills a because who knows how good Reisner will be for us, but it will at least show like okay, we see what everyone else is seeing, and we're gonna finally admit to this being a bad coaching decision in leaving Ed Ingram in as the starting right guard this whole time. He's purely dog shit, and I'm not trying to you know throw shade on him as a human or anything. Just you're not a good football player, bro. You're a liability, a huge one. And then you got Harrison Phillips on nose tackle, makes some good plays once in a while, but he's not a game changer like a Jordan Davis or a Jalen Carter or some of these new younger guys. I mean, he's not a prime Hakeem Nicks, or Hicks. And then you signed Dean Lowry from the Packers.
Dean Lowry.
Like what in your right mind thought that was a good signing, dude? Like how does that better your football team, especially on the D line? How? And then you got guys like Jacqueline Roy, who Jonathan Bullard, like just these just these what's the thing? Like grabbing them from the lost and found bin.
Like Skip used to say with Tom Brady, just point up in the crowd, grab a guy at the stands, or grab a guy out of Dorchester or something. That's kind of what it seemed like with some of these no-name guys you got. I agree with that.
It, it's just bad, bro. I mean, and it's we got a high-powered offense. But when you look at the defense, it's like you're looking at a team or a defense of just throw-ins, like replacements all over the field. It's and then your green dot calling the defense, Jordan Hicks, solid linebacker, but he's getting up there in age. He's kind of lost a step. Harrison Smith has lost a step for sure. We're seeing the
Yeah,
end of his career. Um, Byron Murphy's holding it down on his end. I think Cameron Bynum's having one hell of a season so far. But Daniil's showing up too finally. So
finally.
besides those three guys, I mean, we're susceptible all over on defense,
Yeah.
and it's just a bad look, bro. And then that's what you can expect is these high scoring games, and I don't see the mistakes really going away anytime soon because it's just that once that gets embedded into you and stuff, you're starting to overthink things and you're starting to think about it all the time. Like it just it's a bad pattern. It's a train wreck waiting to happen. So it, while I'm still gonna tune in every game and watch and cheer, there's a lot of questions to be answered, and I think it starts from the top down. GM and head coach, they got to figure it out. So, uh, yeah, I mean that's all I got really right now because it's not looking good.
Unfortunately, it's not. And as we know, last year You were 11 and 0 in one score games this year. You are now 0 and 3 in one score games. And to your point about Quasi, you mentioned this before. All your talent on that team was not brought in by him. And what he's done since he's been at the helm of that organization, it's really just left you guys in purgatory, honestly. I mean, you're really spinning in circles in the position you're in right now. You could easily be 3 and 0, like we've been saying, but you're not, and you're 0 and 3. And when that is the situation in that organization, thoughts change. Maybe the process changes. Maybe guys feel a little bit of fire under their ass. You know, they're on the hot seat now, and then you start thinking about, wow, if we're gonna go 4 and 13, if we're gonna go 5 and 12, our best players aren't going to want to be here that are in their prime. Our better players who are older, they're not going to be able to contribute to whatever we're going to call this competitive rebuild. So then you have to think about, like you also mentioned, is JJ going to be on the trading block, you know? Because that will be the only way to compensate some of this talent. Now that you have TJ Hawkinson, the highest paid tight end in the league, it's something to think about. And it's really tough to think about that as a Vikings fan. You never want to see guys like that walk out the door because you were incompetent as an organization, putting pieces around him to be a championship level team. Um, if we're going to talk about Quasi, you said pretty much everything there is to be said. KOC, I agree with you there too. He has been soft on these guys. You can tell with the lack of ball security on the field. You can tell with the lack of discipline on the field in certain situations.
Lack of urgency.
Yep, lack of urgency, everything. I mean, some of that is Kirk too, because we know that's his
Right.
MO as well, the lack of
Yep.
urgency specifically. But and you mentioned it on that last play. Those guys have to be prepared for that. You have to have two plays going into the huddle. You have to be aware that the time is ticking. We're either going to get up there, clock the ball, have another play to run, or whatever the case may be. The fact that those guys didn't communicate that, Kirk had to call his own play at the end of the game on fourth down with that incompletion to TJ. I mean, that's just unacceptable at this level. The sad thing about this game, outside of you guys losing, is that the Chargers won. So now
Hmm.
Staley gets to keep his job for another week because what he did on
Which,
Sunday was a travesty.
yeah, if they lost that game, bro, there's no reason he should be in that locker room the next day,
No way.
uh, in that building. The Chargers did everything they could to hand us that game, and it just and for you to get that turnover in their own territory at the end of the game and not come away with the touchdown is just so uncalled for, bro. It is so it's so bad. It's such a bad look. And
What were your three goal line situations?
yeah, so there's three different times in the game where we had a first and goal from the three, another first and goal from the three, and a first and goal from the six, and we came away with a total of 3 points. You, what other team does that?
Wow.
It and that goes to my point of that a lot of that has to do with the play calling. You can't draw anything up to get your guys open. I know down that close, they're going to be doing everything they can to take JJ away. You've been seeing double, triple teams in the red zone on him, but
Well, they keep
You
running
have
JJ on that same route off that play action. They run him under, and he's double teamed every time he comes out of there. And then
yeah,
Kirk, one read Kirk, I mean, good luck. You know what
that's
I
yeah,
mean?
and that's it's just unacceptable when you have TJ, you have KJ, you have Jordan Addison now. I mean, there's playmakers all over. There should
AJ
be
had a
no
big touchdown. I mean, there's no excuses for that.
there's no reason like I know there's still time to, course correct and all this, but when you see this in the first 3 weeks, it's not all warm, fuzzy butterflies in the stomach, bro. It's this is a pit in your stomach. Like, what is going on? This is atrocious out here.
It looks a lot worse when you're 0 and 3 because if you're 3 and 0, you're looking at it like, man, if we make one more play here and there, we're averaging 30 some points on the season. We're unstoppable. Who's going to beat us? Now it's like, man, we're just not making these plays when it counts. They're in the big moments. And you're looking at the record now, it's 0 and 3. It's a tough hill to climb, especially
It
when the
is.
Packers pulled off what we'll talk about later. And then Detroit also got a victory this weekend as well. So two teams in your division being 2 and 1 while you are winless is very tough.
It is, and that's what I was saying too before this week of games. I was saying you can't go out and lose this game because our whole division lost their game last week after we played Thursday. That means you're one game behind the two in front of you. So
Yeah.
you cannot go out and shit the bed this game. This is a must-win game. And now all of a sudden you got Carolina and Vikings playing this week, 2-0-3 teams. This is a playoff game, bro. This is do or die now. Like this is you go 0-4, chalk it up, bro.
We're not going to put that into the atmosphere. We don't want that energy floating around here. Offensively, again, you guys show signs of being dynamic, potentially the best offense in the league, but you just got to take care of the ball. TJ Hawkinson had that big fumble when you guys were clicking on that drive, and then Kirk had an interception. He's been taking care of the ball fairly well over these past few years, but he's probably good for interception in a big game every now and then. The defense, I'm going to cut them a little slack. I know last week Philly ran up and down their ass against the Chargers, 15 rushes for 30 yards, so that's definitely going to be able to win you some games. But you mentioned it earlier. Herbert went 40 for 47, 405, 3 touchdowns. Keenan Allen, 18 for 215. He went 1 for 1 in his passing category for 49 yards and a touchdown as well. I mean, the passing defense I thought has been okay for the Vikings this year, especially compared to what it was last year. So I give Brian Flores credit for that. The run defense has been the question. That was kind of flipped this past weekend. And if there's any part of the defense that I want to struggle, I'd rather give up the run, honestly, because people don't understand how hard 40 out of 47 is. I mean, even if your quarterback is pinpoint accurate on every single throw, there's so much that goes into it. The offensive line has to be in tune. They have to make sure they're communicating, block everybody, especially when you have a guy like Daniil Hunter, who's been maybe the best pass rusher in the league over these first 3 weeks. Your wide receivers have to get off the line. They have to get off the DB. After they do that, they have to make contested catches, whether it be on the sideline with the linebacker coming to take their head off. And you just got to figure there's at least one play a quarter. The DC is going to cook up something. The offense just wasn't ready for it, whether it be a blitz off the weak side, dropping 8 into coverage when you think it's going to be a pass play or whatever the case may be. For Herbert to go 40 or 47 was, I know a lot of it was dink and dunk, but I mean, that does not seem like it was an improvement from this Vikings defense from what it looked like last year.
Yeah, no. We gave up more yards this game than Donatel did all last year. And
Close to 500, right?
I'm
Or
not
over
putting that on
500.
Flores or anything, but I think you got to talk about because of how often you blitz and pressure and what they came in with a game plan of being quick hitting offense, getting the ball out super quick. That's when you go into halftime and kind of readjust. And I don't think we really readjusted yesterday, which that technically is on Flores, but he's brought more positive signs to this defense this year with just him calling the plays alone compared to last year. But like I said, we just don't have the personnel for us to run his defense that he wants to run and be good at it. We don't have that front seven. I mean, you got Daniil, but you still haven't had Marcus Davenport yet, and the interior D line is not that good. I mean, the linebackers are okay, but they're not the greatest. It's just you got to have dogs out there that can get home, and we just cannot do that. So you can pressure all you want, but if you can't get home, it's pointless.
I agree. You can't say it enough, man. Things need to change, and they need to change fast because you're not out of the race in the NFC. 2-1. I don't. I don't. I mean, if you watch Jordan Love, I'm not going to count on the Packers shoring up a playoff spot. I think you guys can catch them. Detroit is probably going to win that division with the way things are looking right now. But we saw what Dallas did this weekend. Philly, I mean, they're playing right now. They don't look great. The NFC is still wide open. So, I mean, I think the Vikings really need to get it together against the Carolina Panthers. If there's any team you want to get it together against, they're in that conversation of 4 or 5 teams. So get back on track. You've shown good signs all year. Just got to put it together. You got to be consistent. You got to be disciplined. You got to take care of the ball.
I agree, bro.
Well, I dealt with some heartbreak this weekend too, so don't feel that bad. We have the Indianapolis Colts on the plane traveling to M&T Bank Stadium to take on my Baltimore Ravens. And for the second week in a row, A lot like the Vikings last year, we had a great opening drive. We went down. Lamar scored a rushing touchdown on a very patient uh, quarterback run off the right side there. Stop Colts on their opening drive. Big play by Kenyon Drake, get into enemy territory, fumbles the ball after about 30 yards or so, and I think that's really when the game changed. We go into half down 10-7. So at that point, you got to think, okay, Colts are probably looked at as an inferior team to Baltimore, to everybody around the league. We're down 10-7. Let's have a little bit of urgency coming out in the second half. We get the ball, we punt. We do force a turnover, or we do force a punt by the Colts, so we get the ball back, but we punt again. And the Colts, they go up 13-7. We do answer with another Lamar touchdown run to go up 14-13. But at this point, it was just who wanted to give the game away more. The most impressive player in this game was probably the kicker for the Colts. He had 4 kicks of 50 plus yards, which was an NFL record. He did end up beating us with one of those kicks late in the game. This was just sad, man. You mentioned you had 3 possessions on the three, on the 6 to win the game. We had possessions on the 47 of the Colts, and then our own 47 were pretty much with Justin Tucker. Yeah, he missed a 61-yard field goal earlier, but all you have to do in that situation, just get a first down. We get out of here, we win the game. We can't even muster up a first down on either of those possessions. And when you give a team like the Colts chances, these guys are pros too. They're going to make plays. Pittman made a great catch. He got his helmet knocked off. Made the catch around midfield. Knocked another one of our DBs out. Pierce made some great catches as well. Had a big catch on first down. Had a big catch late in the fourth or overtime. I can't remember exactly when that was. But right now, man, we're dealing with it again. The injury bug is bad. Gus Edwards went out. We had to freaking play Melvin Gordon and Kenyon Drake to finish this game out. I mean, what do you want me to say? I'm gonna
Bro.
go through this list here, so I'm just gonna read it off of all the injuries we have in a second. But it's been brutal, man. We started the season with no Mark Andrews. He did come back. We started the season with no Marlon Humphrey, no Marcus Williams. Some of our best players who are still out. Ronnie Stanley gets hurt. It's just sad. I'm gonna read this to you here, and then you can take the floor. So J.K. Dobbins, Marlon Humphrey, Justice Hill, Damian Williams, Gus Edwards, Trayvon Mullen, Keaton Mitchell, Marcus Williams, OBJ, Ardarius Washington, Rashad Bateman, Adafe Owe, Ty Wallace, who is now on IR. I learned that before the pod. David Ajabo, our starting center, Tyler Linderbaum, Malik Ham, offensive guard, Voorhees, Tyus Bowser, offensive left tackle, starting left tackle, top 5 left tackle, Ronnie Stanley. The goddamn long snapper is hurt for the Baltimore Ravens, Nick Moore. I mean, I can't even I can't even fathom this right now. It's 3 weeks in. We've almost lost half of our starters. We were on our fourth string, fifth string running back against the Colts. And, sometimes you want to put it on coaching. Sometimes you want to put it on execution. Maybe we just didn't have the talent out there, but I'm not going to buy that. We should have won this game. We should have won this game easily. We gave the Colts way too many chances. We didn't take care of the ball. Lamar, I think, had 2 or 3 fumbles, lost one of them. That is his biggest issue right now because he's been fairly accurate this year. But man, that was disappointing, man. That was very
Yeah.
disappointing.
I mean, and then you got a game coming up with the Cleveland Browns, who all of a sudden look pretty damn good, especially on defense still. I think, you got to look at that game probably being whoever wins that has the best shot at winning the division, um, ultimately, at this point in the season. But to have that many injuries on your squad is just, that's brutal because you don't plan for that. I mean, and when it's that big of a list, you kind of throw your hands up and you're just like, what can we do? I mean,
We got a new training staff. I mean, we got all new everything, and we're still dropping like flies out there.
I just thought, I had predicted this game to be kind of one of those games you should win. You use it to do everything you can to win, but use it as one of those games to get more gelled with the offensive coordinator and Lamar and the playmakers on the outside. And look, it's just I think people were call. I was hearing people call it a trap game yesterday, and I mean that's the tough part about the NFL season is you never want to lose games you're supposed to win.
That's a complete trap game, and I did say I thought we'd win by 9. Ideally, we'd probably win by a couple scores. Didn't think it would be this close. Did not think Indianapolis had a chance of upsetting us, especially when Lamar Jackson has over 300 yards total between 202 passing, 101 on the ground. I mean, Gardner Minshew was a starting quarterback who started the season as the backup quarterback. He was only in there because Anthony Richardson has a concussion. No Jonathan Taylor. I just don't know how this happened. I've been thinking about it all day, all night.
And
I just don't know how it
he
happened.
pulled the Orlovsky too.
Oh yeah, let's not forget that on third down, Gardner Minshew steps out the back of the end zone, gives us the ball. Okay, so this was a big possession in the game. The punt probably came to like 2:06 or something like that. Duvernay has a chance to run out the clock a little bit if he catches it, get it under the 2 minute warning. He fair catches. 2 minute warning happens after our first play. We probably have a 30-second possession, under 30 seconds maybe. We give it back to the Colts. It was just bad clock management all the way around. People are going to say, okay, there was a pass interference late on fourth down. That was blatant. Grabbed our receiver on 4th and 3 down deep in their territory, but it should have never came to that. We're a way better team, even with all the injuries. Zach Moss, 30 rushes for 122 yards. And he did exactly that to one of our linebackers or DBs. I think he mossed him in the end zone. I'm just like, this is exactly how my teams lose. Some bull crap like this always happens. Whether it be trick plays, the kicker makes NFL record field goals. It's always something crazy like that. So, I mean, I kind of saw it early. I typically never start to worry till end of third quarter, depending on what the situation is. But you give them ounce of cookie, man, they're gonna want a glass of milk, and that's what you did. You gave them a chance, and they went for it. They got it. So
Just a tough overall weekend for us with those two games. I mean, you chalk it
Minnesota
up.
sports in general, man. I mean, Gophers. I know this isn't a college pod, but up 31-10 against Northwestern, and you choked that game away. I was watching that at work in disbelief, right next to the Notre Dame Ohio State game, which I also didn't like the outcome of that one. Poor Irish, they had it, but they got to pull one of these out eventually, man. But we can move on to our next game. We can kind of speed through these ones. We spent 40 minutes on our feelings so far, just venting about our team. So Denver against Miami. Wow, what can you say, bro? 70 points, two away from the NFL record, I believe.
Madden game.
It really was, bro. I don't think I've scored 70 points on Madden in a long time. This one, as much as we'd like to blame Russ, it's not on him. This is you give up 700 something yards on defense. This team goes out scores 10 touchdowns. Even on Madden, I'd kick a field goal somewhere in there. Like they're gonna stop me eventually, kind of like how we were saying last game. Somebody's gonna have your number at some point. They're gonna make a play or two. I mean, but this was just Patrick Surtain. You're my Alabama guy over there. Please go in there like Ice Cube did and straight out of Compton and just tear up the office, ask for a trade. You deserve better than this. Baltimore needs a DB. Just come home, bro. I don't have anything else to say about Denver. Miami. Baltimore had a chance to join them as the only 3-0 AFC team coming out of week 3. We shit the bed. They definitely did not. I mean, what can you say about this offense, bro?
But I mean, they're clicking right now, bro. Everything about them looks good. They look like the real deal. But I just have my doubts, or I'm skeptical still because can it hold up for a whole season? I don't know. Injuries happen. We know that, but as great as Tua looks right now, I want to see a full season of this to really have my firm stance on where I think he falls as a quarterback in this league. Because I know he's got the talent. I know he's doing well. But I think more so, I think it's a product of who he has on the outside making the plays for him. So, but they are a
Yep.
danger. They are a very dangerous team. They're playing very good football. Mike McDaniel's he's looking like a pretty dang good coach right now. So not much negatives to say on their part. The negatives is completely on Denver's side because I think, like I said last time, it's time to fire everyone, rebuild that thing from the ground up, and man, no one should be safe over there in that building. Um, I think Sean Payton. I mean,
Maybe the game has passed him by. 'Cause
I think he
is McDaniel's a a Shanahan tree guy, a
Yeah.
He's Shanahan tree. Okay.
I don't think Sean Payton is going to end up being a good coach, especially in Denver. But I just think, yeah, I don't look. What he did in New Orleans was great, but I think he's him as a coach is truly showing now without having certain pieces on his team like he did in New Orleans. It's kind of opening that curtain of who this guy really is as a coach, I think, and doesn't look too good. And he plays a lot of blame game in his press conferences, which is a bad look as well. So, but yeah, this team they got to be, especially what I've seen through the first weeks. This is by far the worst NFL team.
Hmm. Hello, Justin. How you doing, Mr. Fields? Oh, yeah, that was blasphemy. You guys are for sure the worst team in the NFL. We'll talk to you. We'll talk about you in a little bit, though. Don't worry. All right, got you. Peace. Next game, New Orleans Saints at Green Bay. The Saints were up 17-0. Plain and simple, they blew the lead. Jordan Love, I know I kind of trashed him earlier, but he did lead a game-winning drive for the Green Bay Packers. They improved to 2-1 on the season. Saints fall to 2-1 on the season. Did you have your eyes on this one? I know it was at noon, and you were in the nail biters. So
I caught glimpses, but looking back on the recap and everything, I mean, I think having to go from Derek Carr to Jameis Winston was a huge blow to that team. Um, I don't think they end up losing possibly if Derek Carr was still in there. But it is a testament to Green Bay, being down five starters to go out there and come back and win this game. So
yeah,
it shows some promise, especially towards Jordan Love. So I'm not going to knock him or hate on him, but I still don't. I don't feel comfortable saying like the Packers are back or that they're that good. They're going to be in a lot of these games are going to kind of be the way they've been going for the Packers, close, tight games, and if they squeak them out, they squeak them out. If they don't, they don't.
I agree. Saints as well. Saints, Titans, Packers, they're all going to be in games like this for pretty much the whole season whenever they have the team that they're not going to blow out or blow them out. You know what I mean? Um, they just don't have They just don't have it quite yet, but they are very competitive, and I do think they are still a solid team. They are missing some
Yeah.
weapons, and they are missing a few starters, like you mentioned. So, unlike Baltimore, they were able to capitalize off those guys that did step up, and they got the W. So, I mean,
Yeah.
credit to them. I know Derek Carr went out in this game. I think it was his AC joint.
His left
So we're gonna,
shoulder or something.
yeah, his left shoulder. So we're gonna be monitoring that. Jameis Winston's the backup, I believe.
Yep.
My guy. I would love to see Jameis get another opportunity somewhere. I'd hate to see it happen because of an injury to Derek Carr, but last I heard he was doing okay, and he'll probably start week 3. So, but it's something to keep our eye on. Anything else on this game before we get to these blowouts?
No.
Our first blowout was Atlanta at Detroit, 6-20. A game I thought would go a little bit differently. You did call Atlanta's defense being able to make some noise and only holding Detroit to 20 points. I think is very impressive. But what I thought would happen in this game, Atlanta would be able to run the ball, keep control of the ball, keep Detroit on the sideline. The offense, and they were not able to do that. Only mustering 6 points. I think we've seen enough of Desmond Ritter to know what he is, and he is really holding this team back right now. Detroit, on the other hand, their defense stepped up more than I thought they would. Offense
Yeah.
took a step back, but in a game like this, you're in a hard fought battle against a good defensive team, a good physical team. You know, not everybody's gonna score 30 points every week. You feel me? So Detroit switched up their play style a little bit and got the win. That's really all that matters, and they got it by 2 scores very convincingly. So, what did you think about this one?
No, I think Detroit is. I'm not gonna say they're the team to beat in the NFC, but for sure in the North. But they're pushing their way slowly but surely up that ladder of being talked about like the Niners and Cowboys and stuff. Just because they might not have as many playmakers as they do, but they're just as gritty. They're just as willing to sacrifice themselves to go out and get a win. Um, and they're led by a pretty darn good coach. So I like what Detroit's doing. And I think that fan base deserves what kind of season they're in store for. So yeah, nothing but positive things to say about them. Honestly, they went out. They should have won this game, and they went out and did it. their way, and like you said, it was still pretty convincingly. So, but yeah, Atlanta, Desmond Ritter, not the answer. He never will be. And your offense is gonna s- suffer for it. It's just what it is because you're not going to be able to lean on Bijan all game long. I mean, you got to have some pass game to it, and there's just no pass game there. I mean, you got Drake London, you got Kyle Pitts, but those two alone in your offense, you should be putting up points at a pretty good clip, and you just can't. And not to mention, you still got Cordell Patterson, where you can put wherever.
Go, go, Gadget.
So it's, I think, I don't know. They might have to start looking at the coach at some point because I don't know if he's the answer for them either.
Could be. I'm not gonna look. I just think it's Desmond Ritter. Give me a decent quarterback, and then we can talk about getting the coach out of there. He's
No,
he's
and like I said, eventually you might have to come to that point. But look, yeah, this is the year you wanted to see what Ritter was all about, and I think we're seeing it pretty damn early what he's about.
Yes, sir. There were probably about three surprises this weekend. Baltimore being one of them. Houston dubbing Jacksonville. Absolutely crazy. I mean, credit to D'Amico out there. Credit to that defense. He finally looked like he got it clicking the way he wanted to a little bit. CJ Stroud, by far his best performance. I don't think he
He's
had any
looking pretty
turnovers
good.
again. Threw for two touchdowns. This guy, he's been very impressive so far this
Yep.
season. As far as quarterback play across the league, there's not been too many guys that have been that impressive. If he can keep playing like this, he could probably end the season as a top 16, 17 guy. I mean, he's really been impressive. He's gotten better every week. This is exactly what you want to see from your number two pick. And now that defense is starting to come along. I don't think they have a chance in this division. 37 points. I don't think they'll be putting up 30 again this season. But very impressive win for Houston nonetheless.
Yep, very impressive. But I think now you got to look at Jacksonville and say we have a lot more questions to answer than we planned on answering. um, because there's no reason you go out and lay an egg like that to a division rival, um, especially with the retooling you've been doing of that team. You got a solid coach. Um, should be a much better year for Trevor Lawrence. Should be a not a breakout season, but a nice comeback season for Calvin Ridley.
Hmm.
You got a solid run game. I don't know. It's just they're kind of another team who kind of ends up shooting themselves in the foot too many times as well.
Yeah, they're one of the main contenders in that category for sure. I've said it enough. I don't like anything about this team, honestly. When it comes down to the big moment, Doug Peterson, I thought he'd have a little bit better control over this team, but I think the biggest issue has been Trevor Lawrence. Coming into the season, we're probably saying he's a top eight guy. He
He
doesn't
don't
look
look
any
like it.
better than CJ Stroud right now. He doesn't look any better than Sam Howell. I mean, he's
Yep,
struggling right now.
yep,
So
yep.
that's the big problem for me if I'm a Jacksonville fan. Buffalo on the road at Washington. Speaking of Sam Howell, did not have a good game. Buffalo did exactly what you wanted them to do, 37-3. Josh Allen for a second week in a row is taking care of the football, played pretty well. And if you're a Buffalo fan, you're feeling pretty good after that week one debacle against the Jets.
Yeah, I think like I said, I felt with Buffalo, I think that they just kind of got off to a rough start with that first game, but eventually they'd settle down and start settling into who they have been the past few seasons. Um, Now, whether they can seal the deal at the end of the season in the playoffs, I don't know. They're kind of a letdown when it comes to that point, but maybe they can get it rolling. I mean, they're looking much better. They're looking good, like they can get on a roll. And to have the past 2 weeks beat teams you should beat very handily is a good sign. So, and now with in Washington, you kind of expected some games to go like this for them, especially with Sam Howell being at quarterback. I don't think he's truly ready to be a QB1 just yet. Obviously, they see things in him that we don't see. But not saying it would have been any different result if Jacoby Brissett was in there, but who knows? I think the best thing about the Washington team is their defense, and that's always going to be the case this season. So, but you get to starting to have to get to that point too, though, with a guy like Terry McLaurin, where he can go flourish, the rest of his career somewhere else.
Yeah, we got to get Terry out of there for sure. I'll probably start up a petition this weekend for that, so be on the lookout. Tennessee Titans on the road at Cleveland, 3-27. Another team that was superior and took care of business the way they were supposed to. As an AFC North opponent, I did not like to see what I saw from the Cleveland Browns, but as a football fan, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to whoop a team's ass that you're supposed to whoop their ass. So 27-3. Derrick Henry wasn't able to get going. Tannehill sucks. So DeAndre Hopkins is pretty upset out there. Mike Vrabel is a good coach, but he can only do so much. This is kind of what we expected in this one. A little bit closer, in my personal opinion, but I did think Cleveland was going to get this W.
Yeah, and I think it was the first time we saw somewhat of a resemblance of Deshaun's old self, to a degree, which bodes well for future games. Hopefully, he can continue to turn that into his old self more and more. But that defense is the real, calling card of that team, and
Hmm.
it shows. So they're gonna be a tough out. They look like they could be a decent playoff team right now, but it's a long season. I just it comes down to can you trust Kevin Stefanski the rest of the way, leading this team to where they want to go and where they see themselves going? I don't know because to me, he's still a super young head coach. You know, he was a decent OC for us. I mean, I don't know. I just think that they're gonna be a team where they're gonna have a lot of games where they do look pretty good on offense, but it's always gonna be that defense who keeps them in all these games. So it's on the offense to seal the deal when push comes to shove.
Yeah, that defense is supreme. That defense is elite. And I thought they needed a couple more weapons on offense, especially with Amari being the number one. But Deshaun and Amari have a great connection. Amari's always been one of the better route runners. We've had questions about his motor in the past. He seems to be motivated out there. He's making some great catches, some big catches, some clutch catches. So, credit to that combination right now. If Deshaun
Yeah.
has a true number one out there, this team will be dangerous, even with the absence of Nick Chubb, because I think Jerome Ford is the backup's name. I mean, it's tough to say that, in my opinion, Chubb is the best running back in the league. So it's tough to say that this team isn't really missing a beat in that position.
Yeah.
But this guy is he's playing his ass off right now in these first 2 weeks without Chubb. So
Yeah.
I'm keeping an eye on this Cleveland team, especially because we'll be playing them next week. I'm a little nervous for that one. We got to wake up for real. Myles Garrett, he has a potential to take Lamar's fucking head off. So we got to watch that. Chicago at KC. This is exactly what KC was supposed to do, similar to all these games right here, man. When you're supposed to whoop a team's ass, go ahead and whoop their ass. 41-10. I think Justin Fields went out of this game. At that point, it was 41-0, and Justin Fields had 42 pass yards. So that's pretty much all you need to know about this game right here, man. Kansas
Yep.
City, complete domination.
That's all it is. This is what should have happened. It did happen. Yeah, and there should start being talk about Eberflus being out the door pretty soon because he's not a good coach. Um, and I hate to say it, but I just don't think Justin Fields is a good quarterback. I He's terrible at reading NFL defenses. Um, feel bad for DJ Moore because it's going to be a wasted year for his career ultimately.
Yeah,
And
that
it's just
sucks.
you want to talk about being incompetent. That whole organization is the epitome of being incompetent right now.
They are, and I don't know if the biggest problem is Eberflus or if it's Justin Fields because the O line's not great, but at the same time, I've seen some clips where they've given him 3 4 seconds.
Yeah.
I've seen guys that have been wide open, right when he catches the ball on little quick out routes or whatever the case may be, little hitches, and he's just missing them. He's just standing in the pocket looking for an Ohio State Clemson kind of connection every play. You're not going to be out here throwing for 400 yards every week. Do what Lamar did, throw for 200, 202, run for 100, 101 or whatever Lamar's numbers were, and you'll be fine.
Yep.
This The offense is built. It's not terrible. That's why I'm not putting all this on
Right.
Eberflus, even though that defense sucks. And I was watching that game yesterday, and I just felt bad for those dudes over there. It was terrible. They just looked so defeated in this week 3, and you've been on some bad teams before. You know what that feels like. So I was looking at those guys on TV. They were zooming up on the defenders, and I'm just like, man. And now Justin Fields is hurt. So given that he was our best option, who the hell is our backup quarterback? Like this is, yeah. So that's why Justin called me. He said he wanted to make sure we're the worst team in the NFL, bar none. Carolina on the road at Seattle. Seattle 37-27 victory. No Bryce Young this game. We had Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, in at quarterback for Carolina. And for a majority of this game, it was very competitive. Seattle, as the better team does, they pulled away at the end. Geno Smith, after that week 1, it was a little shaky, but he was looking like the quarterback that he was last year, a top 10 guy, top 12 guy, whatever the case may be. If Seattle can do that, play a little bit better defense coming down the stretch, they're going to be a team to look out for.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I think they just gotta Seattle just gotta kind of get out of their own way and just kind of get things rolling like they know how to. But Carolina. I mean, I don't know what to think of Carolina. Honestly, I mean, it's just kind of they can look good at moments, but then they look like the Panthers. Other times. But and then for Adam Thielen to go out there and have his like first 100-yard game since 2018. That's crazy to think about. And now we got him this week, and I don't know, bro. Carolina, they're not overly bad. They're just not there yet.
I do think, obviously, Bryce Young, Alabama, my guy. I thought he was the best quarterback coming into the draft. I thought he was the most prepared and NFL-ready quarterback, despite his size. There's no question in my mind that Andy Dalton is a better quarterback, though.
Right.
And we saw that yesterday. He probably should have been starting the season. I understand why he's not. Bryce Young was number 1 overall pick. But this division's open. 2-1, 2-1. Tampa Bay probably will be 2-1 after tonight. If you had Andy Dalton in there for the start of the season, you're probably 1-1 at this point. You had a chance to win this game, but I think Carolina is a team that's going to miss the playoffs this year for sure. But I think a lot of their games could be like this, where they'll be very competitive right up until the end, if not the very end. So,
Look, they got a good defense out there.
really good defense. I don't think they have J.C. Horn. I want to say he pulled his hamstring or something. So, I think they lost him week 1, which really hurts. But their defense is still very solid.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest concern for me coming into this game with them is because of all our offensive miscues so far. How are we going to handle a good defense like they have? I mean, and then you don't have that much trust in our defense, so it's just this could be another game that's just back and forth, and whoever shoots themselves in the foot the most, it's just one of those things. So, but yeah, so I like what Carolina can do on defense. They just don't have the most overpowering offense, across the board. It is what it is. They can put up some points, but I don't think they can go, toe to toe with, high scoring teams
I agree.
at the end of the day.
Somebody else they can't go to toe to toe with high scoring teams is the New York Jets. They were hosting the New England Patriots, and they mustered up 10 points on the weekend, losing 15-10. There was a lot of commotion, a lot of anger, a lot of yelling on that Jets sideline during this game. New England, they didn't look all that impressive. We know this Jets defense is going to be their calling card if they're going to be successful. Kind of what you expect out of a division game. New England gets a close dub, but I think the Jets are in real trouble. I thought after Zach
They are.
Wilson's performance, after Aaron Rodgers went down against the Bills, that this team could potentially be an 11-6 kind of team, but ultimately we would know what their fate would be in the playoffs. At this point, I mean, a playoff run is seeming very suspect.
Yeah, I don't think they, I don't see them going to the playoffs. Especially with Wilson leading the charge. It's just for the Jets to hold New England to what was it, 15 points?
Yeah.
Like that's all. I mean, that's all you can ask for is holding a team to that amount of points. I mean, your offense should put up much more than that. So, and then with all the whirlwind discussions every day on talk morning shows and everything about what the Jets need to do. Go trade for Kirk Cousins, go trade for this guy, or go sign this. Like there's so much negative surrounding the team right now, and it's not. This is what a disaster season looks like.
It is, unless the Vikings go 0-4, and then those talks really might start heating up.
You never know.
Dallas on the road at Arizona. Our last surprise of the night. 16-28. Joshua Dobbs and the Cardinals go down, and they take down the Cowboys. I mean, I really don't have a lot to say about this one. I didn't tune in till late. I saw the Cardinals were up for a majority of the game. I said, well, this is cool. That'd be a fun game to be at. We're beating the Dallas Cowboys. It's not going to last. Tune in with about 7 minutes left. Okay, this is real. We might actually beat this team. Man, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, this defense that we thought was top notch. What happened, bro? You want to talk about a trap game? Or was
Yeah.
this just, what was this?
I don't know. To me, I mean, credit to Jonathan Gannon and being a first time head coach and everything we were seeing, clips of him in the summer we kind of laughed at and joked about. But I think
Pew, pew, pew.
he's actually changing like the culture there, and you can tell because of just how these guys are playing and being trying to be as competitive as they can be because they don't look like the worst team in the league like a lot of us thought they may be.
No, they don't.
So, but yeah, this was just a classic Dallas game that they faltered in, and I mean, though they won't look like this every week, obviously, but it kind of makes you think like, okay, let's stop the whole Super Bowl champions talk and this and that, because that's why I say I don't think the San Francisco 49ers go to Arizona and do what Dallas just did.
No, I don't think so either. We have two primetime games. Going all the way back to Thursday night, we have the New York Giants on the road at San Francisco. I guess you could say the Giants, I guess they were frisky early, but this one ended up being 12-30. San Fran, add them to the list of teams that took care of business in
Yeah.
week 3.
And they just looked. Yeah, the first part of the game, it was kind of like, okay, Giants are doing what they can to stay with the Niners. But once the Niners just settled in, it was just like you knew they had it in the bag. I mean,
Daniel Jones is just bad.
yeah, that was, yeah. There's not much. They're a bad team.
Sunday night football, we had Pittsburgh on the road at Las Vegas. Getting the dub. Mike Tomlin and the boys improving to 2-1. Garoppolo doing exactly what I thought he would do. Some big turnovers. Without those turnovers, Las Vegas probably does win this game. But I think they lose 24-19 or something like that. Pittsburgh, very impressive. Their offense is doing just enough. Their quarterback isn't great, but they have playmakers. So that's why teams like the Jets really confuse me because your quarterback's not great. You might have arguably better playmakers than the Steelers do, but you're not able to muster up any kind of offense week in, week out. So I don't know if that's Zach Wilson or the OC or whatever the case may be, but something the Jets have to figure out that Pittsburgh has figured out because this defense
Yeah.
is just as good as any in the league, and they are opportunistic. Patrick Peterson had a big pick. They might actually have 3 interceptions yesterday. I think they won to end the game as well. So Pittsburgh gets the dub against Vegas. What'd you think about this one?
Yeah, I caught the beginning of it. I don't know. This Raiders team, it's like they have certain pieces, but then they're another team that just kind of gets in their own way. And I think Jimmy G, he's not going to go out there and single handedly beat a team. Josh McDaniels, another coach who tends to get in his own way. Look, I mean, like you said, you got pieces there. It's just we're seeing Jimmy G for who he is. He's not with Shanahan anymore. He's supposed to, have this certain connection with McDaniels from their time in New England, but it just looks kind of funky right now. And to me, with the Steelers, the Steelers are always going to be relevant because of Mike Tomlin. He has that team always prepared, always ready to go. Everyone's always willing to play for him, and do what they can to go out there and get a W. Sometimes we get some lackluster games, but more often than not, they're always in these games. whether it be a good team or a bad team that they're playing. But they're just they're not really explosive on offense. Um, they got playmakers on defense. T.J. Watt obviously is a huge guy for them, all over the place on the field on defense, and it's this to me. They're kind of an average team this year. Uh, Probably, they could probably sneak into the playoffs, but I don't know if I can predict them to go to the playoffs just yet, just because of the division they're in, number one, and then the overall competition across the board in the AFC conference. I just don't think they're there yet.
Tough to call. I mean,
But I can never count out Mike Tomlin because
you can't.
he's the
You
cornerstone
can't.
of that team, bro.
17 years. With the injuries piling up in Cincinnati, with the injuries piling up in Baltimore, even Cleveland. I mean, they lost their best player. I Pittsburgh's not one of those teams that needs to be healthy. They've done this without
Right.
superstar players for so
Yep.
long. They freaking scared the fuck out of me, man. And now they're 2-1. We're all 2-1. I mean,
I
if
know it's
Cincy wins tonight, they're 2-1.
gonna be a long, long season, bro.
We had a real chance to give ourselves a tiny bit of breathing room, but we shit the bed. And that's it's not just losing which hurts.
It's the
You
way you
probably
do
think
it.
about that initially. It's like, okay, next week we have this team, and okay, the teams in my division won, so now we're even further behind the eight ball. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it, and
Right.
now, you put yourself in bad positions. Pull your pants up and get it done. So
Hmm.
that's the position we're both in going into week 4. You got anything else on week 3 though?
No, I'll wait till our next episode to really kind of spit some stuff because I'm just at a loss for words overall based on what I had to witness yesterday in our game, and kind of still trying to wrap my head around how to like what to make of it all, and because the confidence really isn't there anymore. Never, even though it really never was a huge confidence thing for me with this team. It was just more so, okay, we got pieces, high powered offense, but we just look so incompetent across the board, and just brutal, shooting ourselves in the feet too many times, and it's just. So I mean, take another night and throughout the day tomorrow to kind of think about some things, and once we start getting into these predictions for this next week, we can talk a little bit more on some of these things.
Uh, Go through our predictions and everybody be on the lookout for that. That'll drop on Thursday. I don't know what the energy will be like during that episode. If we'll be sad and somber or if we'll be a little bit more cheerful, but only time will tell. We'll see how work goes tomorrow. But that's it for me. If you're good, let's get out of here.
Yes, sir.
All right, we appreciate y'all. Until next time.